We're back then with another hero spotlight video for Marvel's Midnight Suns. The hero we'll be looking at today is Magik. She looks to have an incredibly interesting kit. So in the video, we'll start off, I'll run over a general breakdown of her playstyle. We'll then check out her passive, and then we'll have a look at the various different cards. The cards are essentially skills for the characters. Now, before we go in and we start breaking it down, two things. One, the information in this video largely comes from the Marvel Midnight Sun wiki and a content creator called Christopher Odd. So make sure to check both of them out. There's links to both of their channels in the description below, and also if you want early access to videos such as this, consider becoming a channel member. But let's dive in, let's start breaking this down. So Magik then looks to be a tank support style hero. She'll make heavy use of knockbacks and portals as well, which is a really awesome looking mechanic. She also has a new element to her, or there's a new aspect of the game explained within her preview, so it's called drops. We're going to break that down later on in the video, and also it looks like she will be able to summon an additional hero. That's something we're going to break down later in the video as well. But that's a quick overview. Let's now check out the passive for her. The passive for Magik then is all about generating Limbo Portals, so that fits in perfectly with her playstyle. She's all about knockbacks, and the knockbacks you generally want to do through a portal so you can hit the enemy into either another enemy or the environment for additional damage. So it's called Relay. This is a tier 2 tooltip we have. There's a 25% chance to generate a Limbo Portal card. We're going to look at that card later on in the video. The 25% chance to generate this is after an enemy is knocked back through a portal. So essentially if you use a portal, you've got a 1 in 4 chance at tier 2 to generate another portal which you can then use, and then it would just keep going on from there. Doesn't look to be massively powerful or anything like that, but I think it will introduce some fun and interesting gameplay elements, this. But that's the passive. Let's talk about the drop mechanic that we mentioned just a moment ago. So this is a new mechanic that we're looking at here. Now within certain stages of the game there are areas where it looks like you can knock the enemy off the edge. Sometimes you'll be fighting on top of a building, for example, or in some instances I've actually seen what looks to be like a magic portal on the floor that the enemy could actually fall into, and this is where drops comes into play. So the tooltip for this: when an enemy is knocked back into a drop, they have a chance to be instantly KO'd. The instant KO chance goes up as the enemy's health is reduced. Heroes and supervillains cannot be knocked into drops. So you can't one-shot a boss with it. You won't be able to one-shot enemies that have got higher health. At least there'll be a small chance for you to do that. But if the enemy's in lower health and you want to take them out in a pretty interesting and fun looking way, knocking them into a portal on the ground, for example, or off the edge of a building, then you will have the option of doing that. Now, very quickly before we do go in and we start looking at the cards for her, there's a very unique, interesting aspect to her. It looks like she's got a card that allows you to summon an additional hero within your team. So rather than having 3 heroes in a match, you can actually have 4. We don't know if it's a random hero that you actually summon, and we also don't know how long they'll stick around for. They might only be there for 1 turn, for example, but if they can come in for 1 turn and they manage to get their Midnight Suns card within the pool, that's exceptionally powerful. Ultimate skills essentially that heroes have, then this could make Magik really pretty bonkers, and I think it's going to be hard not to have her in your team depending on how this actually works. But that's just a quick look at different aspects of her and some new mechanics for the game. Let's have a look at the specific cards we now have access to. We'll start off here with the attack cards. They are pretty simple, but once we get them out the way we can look at the skill and heroic cards that are a lot more interesting. This one is Quick Soul Slash, so you'll do your initial damage on this. It's got knockback, so you can knock an enemy back through a portal, for example, or knock them off a ledge, and that's the drop mechanic we talked about. It's also got quick, so if you defeat an enemy when you use this particular card, then the card cost is refunded. The next attack card we have here is another pretty simple one. You do your initial damage on it, and then also has Forceful Knockback. So Forceful Knockback actually hits enemies back double the distance, and it does double the impact damage that a regular knockback would do. But let's have a look at the skill cards now. With the skill based cards, this is where things get a lot more interesting here. So we've got 2 tiers of this card, so you can see the difference when you actually upgrade it. The tier 1 version is called Limbos Grasp, so for the rest of the mission you deal additional damage to enemies knocked through a portal. That damage number will change based on your level. If you upgrade this to tier 2, then you'll create a portal while using this card as well, so it synergizes perfectly together. You're creating a portal to hit an enemy through it, and you'll be doing additional damage to them as well. This next card is one that will tie in with the passive that we talked about earlier on, where you had the 25% chance when you knock an enemy through a portal to generate this card. So it's called Limbo Portal, and you'll see when you use this it creates a portal, and it's also free, so it's not going to cost you to place this down at all. We then move on to the heroic cards. This is where things get even more interesting again. So this particular card, we've got 2 tiers of it. This is called Banished. So your tier 1 version of this, you replace an enemy with a drop until the next turn. So the enemy disappears for that particular turn, and in their place you have a portal on the ground that you can potentially knock back enemies in and KO them depending on their health. Once you upgrade it to tier 2, you can replace an enemy or an ally with a drop until the next turn. So if you've got an ally that's perhaps on low health, there's an enemy that's going to hit them, you place a portal down on the ground where they were and you hopefully knock the enemy through that and knock them out. It sounds really pretty amazing. The next card we have here, once again we have the 2 tiers of this. The card that's called Gather. So with this particular card, you damage and move each enemy in an area towards its centre. So you're essentially setting up all the enemies for perhaps a character that has an AoE move. So you've got the likes of Doctor Strange, his ultimate card is in a pretty amazing AoE damage one, or Scarlet Witch. A lot of our cards operate in AoE, so Magik can pull them together and then it will synergise with the other characters. If you upgrade this to tier 2, it's increasing the area of effect, so you're pulling more characters together as well. So from a tactical point of view, this could be a really useful card. The final card we look at here is the Midnight Suns card. This is unlocked alongside the Midnight Suns costume for the character when you max out the relationship within that abbey. These cards are genuinely really powerful. They have exhaust on them, which means you can only use them once per stage, because otherwise they would just be far too OP. Now, this particular card is called Dark Child, so she'll change into her demonic form. It's great to see that in game. Aside from the animation, it doesn't look like it's the flashiest, but I think it'll be a really useful card. So with this, you gain 1 invulnerable, so you can't take any damage. You gain 1 counter. Now that means every enemy that attacks you during that particular turn, you will counter and do damage to them. It's not just one individual enemy, it's every enemy. With this as well, you taunt all enemies. So let's say you've got 10 different enemies in the stage for an entire turn. None of your heroes will be taking any damage because all the enemies will be attacking Magik. She won't take any damage and she'll do damage back to them. So this looks absolutely bonkers, this card. It's going to be really powerful, I reckon. So that's everything we know so far for Magik. I'll continue to do these videos for the other characters as we get more information on them. If the video has been useful, take time to hit a like, share and subscribe button. And thanks for tuning in, stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon.